Last month, when talk began of a government shutdown leaking out of Republican Tea Party circles, Dick Armey, the former Republican House Majority Leader and current Tea Party astroturfer, reminded his compatriots of the first rule of government shutdown. You do not talk about government shutdown. In our fourth story, Tea Party Republicans are once again breaking the first rule of government shutdown. Half-baked Alaska Joe Miller telling the National Review this morning, quote, "I think there's an understanding that the mood of the nation has changed in such a way that there's not going to be a toleration of business as usual. That means shutting down the government, so be it." Asked if McConnell would be up for a shutdown, Miller responded, "There was a comment made at breakfast this morning about shutting down the government, and McConnell reacted in a positive way. I'm not going to quote him, but I think that he recognizes that that's on the table." McConnell's office pushing back, a spokesman saying Republicans can reduce government, quote, "without shutting down the government, but it will require Democrats to join our effort." House Minority Whip Eric Cantor last week told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "I don't think the country needs or wants a shutdown. We don't want to be seen as a bunch of yahoos." Today, Mark Meckler, co-founder of the Tea Party Patriots, jabbing back, "Maybe I'm just one of those yahoos, but I think it's crazy to take anything off the table. Unfortunately, I think Cantor is repeatedly making this mistake." Meanwhile, back in Alaska, Joe Miller's everything is unconstitutional theory of government suffered two more blows. A federal judge in Michigan ruling that the mandatory enrollment portion of the Affordable Health Care Act is allowed under commerce clauses. Also yesterday, Miller confirming that in the past, his family has received assistance from federal Medicaid. Assistance like federal unemployment benefits that Miller now wants to deny everybody else because he thinks they're unconstitutional. In Nevada, the Tea Party Republican Sharon Engel's juice is spoiling. Two leading Nevada Republicans, the wife of the state's former Republican governor and State Senator Bill Raggio, endorsing the Democrat, the incumbent Harry Reid. Raggio, who defeated Engel in a 2008 primary, calling her ineffective, often radical, with extreme positions on issues such as Medicare, Social Security, education. That extremity on display in Engel's new attack ad. The candidate springing a trap that was set for Mr. Reid in March by Republican Senator Tom Coburn. The ad claims, and she expects to be taken seriously after an ad like this, that Reid supports giving Viagra to child molesters and sex offenders. Of course he doesn't. Who would? And in Delaware, Christine O'Donnell has finally revealed her #1 qualification to become a senator.
I have a graduate fellowship from the Claremont Institute in Constitutional Government, and it is that a deep analysis of the Constitution that has helped me to analyze and have an opinion on what's going on today and be able to determine that our leaders in Washington have lost their way.
Talking Points memo points out the #1 qualification for Senate was an intensive 8-day course. Slightly more impressive than a certificate of completion from sleepaway magic camp. At least, unlike her pal Joe Miller, Ms. O'Donnell never went to Yale.
I didn't go to Yale.
Or Oxford or Princeton. Joining me now, Dave Weigel, Slate political reporter, MSNBC contributor, who spent the day at the Virginia Tea Party Patriots Convention. Good evening, Dave.
Good evening, Keith.
McConnell and Cantor downplaying the government shutdown idea, Joe Miller expressing it as a viable option. Did he not get the message about not opening that Pandora's box till after Christmas?
Well, Joe Miller is more in the spirit of what the Republican base wants right now than Cantor is. I mean, Cantor's job is to elect as many Republicans as possible. Joe Miller's job is to elect Joe Miller and to give interviews to conservative newspapers. And he's saying, you know, what people who I was talking to all day are saying, which is that if they're serious about changing the country when they take over, they'd better be ready to stop everything in its tracks. And this is, you know, what I noticed today in Richmond, Republican base has moved from hoping that they win the election, because they're pretty confident they will, to just getting ready for the coming infighting, just getting ready to stage a battle where they demand a complete shutdown, complete repeal, everything they were promised in the heat of the Tea Party movement from Republicans. It's not clear if they can get it if you listen to Cantor.
Why don't we just go off topic? A complete repeal of health care reform?
Well, yeah, they want, people told me today, they've been telling me, that they expect Republican candidates, if they're serious, to sign on to a discharge petition and an immediate vote as soon as they can on repealing all of health care. And Republican strategists, you know, they're pretty giddy, but if you catch them in the moments when they're less giddy, they realize this is going to be tough when the Republican Party either is unable to get that through, or Barack Obama vetoes it.
Yeah,
it's not clear that a shutdown such good politics for them either. I mean, there's a version of history in which Republicans lost Congress because they were not conservative enough, and in that history, the shutdown was great for them. In reality, you know, the shutdown involved the FDA not checking foods and people not getting checks they expected. The Democrats relish it for a reason, because they remember how bad it actually was. There's very few ways to remind people of why they like the government sometimes, and that's one of them. You know, Barack Obama hasn't been able to manifest many of them, but that's one, when the government stops performing essential functions.
Yeah, and you also mentioned the other part about the not really thinking through the whole idea of the presidential veto on the repeal of something like health care reform, but we're expecting stuff like that. And to the point that there is some actual blowback to some of the non-realistic aspects of the Tea Party in particular. What happened in Nevada with Sharon Angle and Harry Reid and these two endorsements from the Republicans? Is that like just somebody throwing their hand up from the back of the crowd going, "You guys are nuts"? Does it mean anything?
Oh, it wasn't actually totally unexpected. I mean, you pointed out that Bill Raggio held off an Angle challenge early in his career, and from all we know, really does think she was an incompetent radical in legislature. But that's exactly what her base wants to hear. I mean, they're kind of spinning this as more proof. There's really nothing a Tea Party candidate can do wrong, if they're irritating the establishment. If Christine O'Donnell cuts an ad that seems to the rest of us ridiculous, it's proof that the establishment is missing the point. If Joe Miller says something that Mitch McConnell walks back, it proves that Joe Miller's a straight talker and Mitch McConnell's not. And this is another example. The fact that everyone around Sharon Angle says she can't hack it is proof that she can hack it, or something.
Great, and a veto-proof majority with it, and $1 million in everybody's Christmas stocking. MSNBC contributor, well, that might be true, actually, for some of the major corporations. MSNBC contributor Dave Weigel, have a great weekend, Dave. Thank you.
You too. Thank you, Keith.